Welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange. My name is Chelsea, and I'm, as always, so grateful that you are here listening, especially as I'm seeing the numbers of people listening to this podcast go up and up and up every month. So truly so grateful. Now, today I want to talk about something that really, truly changed the way that I understand people, habits, healing, self-sabotage, growth, like all of it. Your nervous system is not built for success. It is built for safety. And it's important to know that your nervous system defines safety based on familiarity and not quality. And that changes everything. Because most people are out here trying to force themselves into success, visibility, consistency, discipline, health, into boundaries, rest, growth, better relationships, slowing down, being more present, whatever it is, while their nervous system is quietly going, yeah, but is it safe? And if the answer is no, or even I'm not sure, the system will usually choose protection over potential. And that is often why people are procrastinating, or avoiding, or overthinking, or shutting down, or disappearing from themselves, or they ruin momentum, or say they want change while unconsciously clinging to the exact patterns exhausting them. Because the body will almost always choose what's familiar before it chooses what's actually better for you. Even if that familiar thing is painful or causing you harm. I saw it in myself when it came to drinking. I knew the thing was bad for me, but I kept doing it. And I see that in the women that I work with as well. They understand alcohol is no longer serving them in any shape or form, and they want to quit, but then they find themselves, after being quote unquote good for so long, getting into a drink or a bottle of wine because that's what their nervous system has found safety in. And I think that this is a really important thing to understand, because we think, if I know better, I should be able to do better. But knowledge does not automatically override your basic physiology. And honestly, like, high functioning women especially struggle with this because they are used to overriding themselves, pushing through, holding everything together, being productive, being dependable, being fine. Meanwhile, their nervous system is screaming underneath of all of it. This was me for years, especially before I quit drinking. I've talked about this before. On the outside, on paper, my life was tremendous. Great career, big projects, busy schedule, married, house, little dog, all the adult things that make it look like someone has their life together because somebody somewhere decided that those were the metrics of success and happiness. Meanwhile, internally, I was out of sorts. I didn't actually realize how much of my life was actually organized around trying to create temporary feelings of relief, validation, control, or escape. And even in the healthy things, the routines, the workouts, the diets, the optimization, a lot of it wasn't actually wellness. It was me trying to manage how I felt, to try and outrun stress, outrun discomfort, trying to become someone who finally felt acceptable enough. And honestly, like, this is why my work is not just for women who want to quit drinking. Because yes, alcohol was one of my coping mechanisms, but people cope in a million different ways. Well, maybe not a million, but you understand what I'm trying to say. There's overworking, overthinking, people pleasing, scrolling, staying busy. Food can be one. Shopping, avoidance, hyper-independence, perfectionism, needing to stay productive all the time, never slowing down long enough to actually feel yourself. Like, I can hit almost every single thing on that list. Now, not to such a large extent. Like, obviously, I've quit drinking. It's been 6+ years. The shopping, the food, all that kind of stuff, like, I have got it under wraps. Like, I kind of pick the the bigger, heavier things to work through, but I'm still working through hyper independence and asking for help and this need to be perfect all the time. The point is, most people have something that they reach for to regulate, to numb, distract, soothe, to escape, control, avoid, or create some kind of temporary relief. And the coping mechanism itself is usually not the first problem. It's the overload underneath it. And that's where the nuance comes in. Because if your nervous system has learned that love requires performance, that rest is lazy, that slowing down is unsafe, that conflict threatens connection, that being easygoing keeps you liked, that emotions are too much, that success creates pressure, that visibility creates judgment, and asking for help makes you weak, your body will organize around protecting you from those things, even subconsciously. And that's where I think a lot of people misunderstand themselves. For example, like let's say someone says, I really want to start posting online consistently. And logically, I know that they mean it. But then suddenly they're procrastinating, over editing everything, feeling exhausted before they even begin. They'll convince themselves that they need another certification first, or scroll instead of create, or disappear the second people start paying attention. I'm using that as an example because that was me. Most people call that lack of discipline. And I look at that and now I know that, or I think, like, what does visibility mean to this person's nervous system? Because if being seen at some point once led to being criticized or rejected, or maybe a sense of pressure, or feeling exposed or unsafe, or feeling responsible for everyone else's reactions, then their body may genuinely perceive visibility as a threat. Which is why mindset work alone often barely scratches the surface. Because you cannot bully your nervous system into long-term safety. And I think that is why so many women feel so frustrated after removing coping mechanisms. Because they quit drinking, or leave the relationship, or the job, or stop overworking, or start healing. And suddenly they realize, fuck, the stress underneath this was here the whole time. And now they're left sitting with themselves without the thing that they used to regulate through. This is a very vulnerable place to be in. And it's why so many people accidentally replace one coping mechanism for another. Because the nervous system is still trying to solve for safety. That's why this work has to go deeper than the behavior. It absolutely has to include the body. Because if the body is always asking, can I survive this? Am I safe here? What happens if I slow down? What happens if I disappoint someone? What happens if I stop performing? What happens when I'm fully seen? Like, that's the real work. And honestly, I think it's one of the biggest shifts someone can make is learning how to stop treating themselves like a fucking machine. PSA, you are not a machine. You are a human with a nervous system and a heart. And I think that most people tend to support themselves after collapse. After they've had the panic attack, after they've shut down, after the fuck it moment where they did the thing that they said they weren't going to do, after the binge, after the fight, after the breakdown. But self-leadership is learning how to notice the buildup sooner. Because your nervous system leaves clues literally everywhere. Maybe you stop replying to people. Maybe you stop wanting to be perceived. Maybe everything starts to feel really annoying. Maybe your inner dialogue becomes really harsh. Or maybe you start fantasizing about disappearing. Maybe simple things suddenly feel super overwhelming. Or maybe you start saying, I don't care, when really your nervous system is overloaded. And all those little nuanced signs matter. That's a lot of communication and feedback that your body is giving you. And the more that you understand your system and these little clues, these little breadcrumbs that it's dropping, the more choice you actually have. It might not be perfect choice, but it is conscious. And I think that the goal is not becoming someone who never gets activated, The goal is becoming someone who understands what their nervous system is trying to protect them from. Because once you understand the protection underneath the behavior, you stop relating to yourself through shame. And truly, that changes everything. So, I feel like there's so many more episodes that I can do on like this subject alone, and the different kind of stress responses and what our bodies do in these moments. But we'll keep it at that for now. I'd love to hear from you if this episode was like, oh, like that's what's happening. Like maybe it took a little pressure off of you. Maybe you understand that it's not that you have to try harder or be more disciplined or be more consistent. Maybe you can stop judging yourself for any start-stop or stop-start that you've done with any of the habits that you're trying to override. Maybe you can give yourself a little bit of grace that your system is truly just trying to look out for you and it had learned a certain way. And there's a really great opportunity to start teaching it a new way. This is what I do in my deliberate mentorships, my one-on-one containers, where we actively map your patterns. We map your stress responses. There's lots of education on the stress responses and what it does in your body so you can start to like catch those yellow flags. And then pairing that with breathwork experiences that help you to repattern at the subconscious level. So if you are interested in any of that, please reach out to me. I have a few limited spots coming up for the next quarter. And I'll leave some details in the show notes. In the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.